Hi, I'm Craig, and this is Crash Course Government and Politics, and today we're going to get down and dirty, wallowing in the mud that is Congress. Okay, maybe that's a little unfair, but the workings of Congress are kind of arcane, or Byzantine, or maybe let's just say extremely complex and confusing. Like me, or Game of Thrones, without the nudity. Some of the nudity, maybe. However, Congress is the most important branch, so it would probably behoove most Americans to know how it works. I'm going to try to explain. Be prepared to be behooved. Both the House of Representatives and the Senate are divided up into committees in order to make them more efficient. The committees you hear about most are the standing committees, which are relatively permanent and handle the day-to-day business of Congress. The House has 19 standing committees and the Senate 16. Congressmen and senators serve on multiple committees. Each committee has a chairperson, or chair, who is the one who usually gets mentioned in the press, which is why you would know the name of the chair of the House Ways and Means Committee. Tell us in the comments if you do know. Or tell us if you are on the committee. Or just say hi. Congress creates special or select committees to deal with particular issues that are beyond the jurisdiction of standing committees. Some of them are temporary, and some, like the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, are permanent. Some of them have only an advisory function, which means they can't write laws. The Select Committee on Energy Independence and Global Warming has only advisory authority, which tells you pretty much all you need to know about Congress and climate change. There are joint committees made up of members of both houses. Most of them are standing committees, and they don't do a lot, although the Joint Committee on the Library oversees the Library of Congress, without which we would not be able to use a lot of these pictures, like that one, and that one. And, ooh, that one's my favorite. Other committees are conference committees, which are created to reconcile a bill when the House and Senate write different versions of it. But I'll talk about those later when we try to figure out how a bill becomes a law. So why does Congress have so many committees? The main reason is that it's more efficient to write legislation in a smaller group rather than a larger one. Congressional committees also allow congressmen to develop expertise on certain topics. So a congressperson from Iowa can get on an agriculture committee because that is an issue he presumably knows something about if he pays attention to his constituents. Or a congressperson from Oklahoma could be on the regulation of wind rolling down the plain committee. Committees allow members of Congress to follow their own interests, so someone passionate about national defense can try to get on the Armed Services Committee. Probably more important, serving on a committee is something that a congressperson can claim credit for and use to build up his or her brand when it comes time for re-election. Congress also has committees for historical reasons. Congress is pretty tradish, which is what you say when you don't have time to say traditional. Anyway, it doesn't seem much need to change a system that has worked, for the most part, since 1825. That doesn't mean that Congress hasn't tried to tweak the system. Let's talk about how committees actually work in the thought bubble. Any member of Congress can propose a bill. This is called proposal power, but it has to go to a committee first. Then to get to the rest of the House or Senate, it has to be reported out of committee. The chair determines the agenda by choosing which issues get considered. In the House, the Speaker refers bills to particular committees, but the committee chair has some discretion over whether or not to act on the bills. This power to control what ideas do or do not become bills is what political scientists call gatekeeping authority, and it's a remarkably important power that we rarely ever think about, largely because when a bill doesn't make it onto the agenda, there's not much to write or talk about. The committee chairs also manage the actual process of writing a bill, which is called markup, and the vote on the bill in the committee itself. If a bill doesn't receive a majority of votes in the committee, it won't be reported out to the full House or Senate. In this case, we say the bill died in committee, and we have a small funeral on the National Mall. Now we just put it in the shredder. Anyway, committee voting is kind of an efficient practice. If a bill can't command a majority in a small committee, it doesn't have much chance on the floor of either house. Committees can kill bills by just not voting on them, but it is possible in the House to force them to vote by filing a discharge petition. This almost never happens. Gatekeeping authority is Congress's most important power, but it also has oversight power, which is an after-the-fact authority to check up on how law is being implemented. Committees exercise oversight by assigning staff to scrutinize a particular law or policy and by holding hearings. Holding hearings is an excellent way to take a position on a particular issue. Thanks, Thought Bubble. So, those are the basics of how committees work, but I promised you we'd go beyond the basics, so here we go, into the realm of congressional history. Since Congress started using committees, they have made a number of changes, but the ones that have bent the Congress into its current shape occurred under the speakership of Newt Gingrich in 1994. Overall, Gingrich increased the power of the Speaker, who was already pretty powerful. The number of subcommittees was reduced, and seniority rules in appointing chairs were changed. Before Gingrich, or BG, the chair of a committee was usually the longest-serving member of the majority party, which for most of the 20th century was the Democrats. AG Congress, or Anno Gingrichi Congress, holds votes to choose the chairs. The Speaker has a lot of influence over who gets chosen on these votes, which happen more regularly because the Republicans also imposed term limits on the committee chairs. Being able to offer chairmanships to loyal party members gives the Speaker a lot more influence over the committees themselves. The Speaker also increased his or her, this is the first time we can say that, thanks Nancy Pelosi, power to refer bills to committee and act as gatekeeper. Gingrich also made changes to congressional staffing, but before we discuss the changes, let's spend a minute or two looking at congressional staff in general. There are two types of congressional staff: the staff assistants that each congressperson or senator has to help him or her with the actual job of being a legislator, and the staff agencies that work for Congress as a whole. The staff of a congressperson is incredibly important. Some staffers' job is to research and write legislation, while others do casework, like responding to constituents' requests. Some staffers perform personal functions like keeping track of a congressperson's calendar, or most importantly, making coffee. Can we get a staffer in here? As congresspeople spend more and more time raising money, more and more of the actual legislative work is done by staff. In addition to the individual staffers, Congress as a whole has specialized staff agencies that are supposed to be more independent. You may have heard of these agencies, or at least some of them. The Congressional Research Service is supposed to perform unbiased factual research for congresspeople and their staff to help them in the process of writing the actual bills. The Government Accountability Office is a branch of Congress that can investigate the finances and administration of any government administrative office. The Congressional Budget Office assesses the likely costs and impact of legislation. When the CBO looks at the cost of a particular bill, it's called scoring the bill. The congressional reforms after 1994 generally increased the number of individual staff and reduced the staff of the staff agencies. This means that more legislation comes out of the offices of individual congresspeople. The last feature of Congress that I'm going to mention, briefly because their actual function and importance is nebulous, is the caucus system. These are caucuses in Congress, so don't confuse them with the caucuses that some states use to choose candidates for office, like the ones in Iowa. Caucuses are semi-formal groups of congresspeople organized around particular identities or interests. Semi-formal in this case doesn't mean that they wear suits and ties. It means that they don't have official function in the legislative process. But you know what? Class it up a little. Just try to look nice. The Congressional Black Caucus is made up of the African American members of the legislature. The Republican Study Group is the conservative caucus that meets to discuss conservative issues and develop legislative strategies. Since 2010, there is also a Tea Party caucus in Congress. There are also caucuses for very specific interests, like the Bike Caucus that focuses on cycling. There should also be a Beard Caucus, shouldn't there? Is there a Beard Caucus, Stan? No? What about an Eagle Punching Caucus? The purpose of these caucuses is for like-minded people to gather and discuss ideas. The caucuses can help members of Congress coordinate their efforts and also provide leadership opportunities for individual congresspeople outside of the more formal structures of committees. There are a lot of terms and details to remember, but here's the big thing to take away. Caucuses, congressional staff, and especially committees all exist to make the process of lawmaking more efficient. In particular, committees and staff allow individual legislators to develop expertise. This is the theory, anyway. Yes, it's a theory. Committees also serve a political function of helping congresspeople build an identity for voters that should help them get elected. In some ways, this is just as important as their role in the process of making actual legislation. When Congress doesn't pass many laws, committee membership, or better yet, being a committee chair, is one of the only ways that a congressperson can distinguish him or herself. At least it gives you something more to learn about incumbents when you're making your voting choices. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week. Crash Course is produced in association with PBS Digital Studios. Support for Crash Course, U.S. government, comes from Vocal. Vocal supports nonprofits that use technology and media to advance social equity. Learn more about their mission and initiatives at vocal.org. Crash Course is made with all of these lovely people. Thanks for watching. Staffer, coffee, please.
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Dan Whitfield. I'm the Democratic candidate running to unseat and replace Senator John Boozman in the United States Senate, and I do a weekly update Q&A every Saturday evening, approximately 6 p.m. Central. So today, of course, I've got a little bit of exciting news. I've got some new members to our team who I'm sure y'all are going to love. We have a meeting actually at 6:15 in about 15 minutes. So unfortunately, I do have to keep it brief today. And we've had so much news this last week that it's really tough because I could talk about Senator John Boozman, my opponent, voting against an investigation into the January 6th insurrection riot at the Capitol building all day long. But we don't have time to do that. So let's go ahead and start with where we are right now. Our campaign is moving right along. We need some more volunteers. I'm working on getting my campaign manager right now. I'm working on finding a firm that can help us get that campaign manager and get everything organized so that we can start moving forward faster. We're still at about 88 volunteers right now. So if you want to help flip Arkansas blue in 2022, make sure you reach out. Give me a phone call, text message. You can shoot me an email, a message on social media. Let me know you want to help, and I will get you involved with our Slack volunteer group. And you can meet up with our volunteer coordinator, and we can go from there. So we need as many volunteers as possible. That way we can have the best shot at replacing a GOP senator and having an actual voice in the legislative process here in Arkansas. So volunteer if you can. If you that just means you want to knock on doors and do some canvassing, that's amazing. If you want to help phone bank, just make some calls and talk to people about a little bit about who I am, what I represent, and what they want me to do to represent them in the legislative process. That's great. And even if you can help with something like graphics design for different kinds of logos, media, if you want to help with website development or anything like that, please let us know. Now, if you don't have as much time to help with things like that, you can always help be a volunteer just by setting up an event in your area. So if you say you live in Jonesboro and you have 10 or 15 friends in Jonesboro and you want to get them together for a meet and greet so that they can ask me questions, and that's volunteering, that's helping. So if you can even do something like that, let me know. I'll get you in touch with our coordinator and we can start getting moving forward even faster. Another thing I wanted to talk about were donations. Our donations have been coming in quickly. You guys are amazing. We're about to hit that threshold to start our FEC filing, which my poor wife, I guess I can say she's excited about it. She does all that stuff for us. It's a lot of work if y'all didn't know. Because she itemizes everything down to the penny. When we spend money on gas, she will break it down by receipt, and she won't just lump sum it, say $5,000 for gas. That'll be $22 here, $24 there, so on. So it's a lot of work for her. So if you get a chance, thank you, hun. I thank her every chance I get. Got to get some donations coming in. I recently shared my Act Blue account, the link to donate through Act Blue if you feel safe doing it through that manner. Or you can also go to danforarkansas.com and there's a little donation box that pops up. That's my donor box. It all goes to the same place. So please donate however you can, even if you can only afford, of course, because I know people are still suffering from COVID and lost wages and things like that. Just $1 a month makes a big difference. If we can get enough people to donate $1 a month, then that can mean the difference between airing a 10-second ad on TV or airing a 30-second ad on TV. So it makes a big difference. If you can, please set up a weekly or a monthly reoccurring donation. So I hate asking for money, and so I want to get that out of the way real quick. The next thing I want to talk about is COVID in Arkansas. So we now have no mask mandate. We're not in a state of emergency anymore. Our cases are still around averaging about 200 new cases per day. So make sure you do practice safe and due diligence when you're out in public. If you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask anymore. I'm vaccinated, but I still wear a mask because I know it makes the people around me feel more comfortable. So if you are not vaccinated, make sure you're wearing a mask. Get out and get vaccinated. It doesn't cost you a thing. Like I said, I'm vaccinated. I got the first shot. I got the second shot. I'm okay. I don't have any magnetism in me. I don't have a microchip in me. I just know that now if I get COVID-19, I'm less likely to end up on a ventilator and die. So it's a good thing to go out and get vaccinated. That's really kind of all I've got for updates. We don't have a whole lot going on. I've been attending some meetings this last week. I've got meetings scheduled upcoming. I know Russ for governor, just Russ, he is actually hosting some events that I will be going to, some Others Day events in Northwest Arkansas. So I'll make sure I share his events. You can come, you can meet me, ask me questions. You can meet some gubernatorial candidates and ask them questions as well. I believe they had an event in Jonesboro. I think it was this weekend, either today or tomorrow or yesterday. But make sure you're following these events. That way you can meet multiple different candidates for governor, ask them questions, and decide what candidate you feel is best going to represent you in the legislative process here in Arkansas. And that way you can make your most knowledgeable vote possible during the primaries that are going to be coming up this early next year. Do I have any questions on here? Let's see here. Any questions from anybody? don't see anything. Oh my gosh. Man, I've been doing the beginning of my live stream, the wait period, with Crash Course Government and Politics, because it's so important that we're knowledgeable and that we understand what the political process is in the different parts of our government and how different parts of our government affect our everyday lives. So I notice I get a lot of viewers during that video, and they kind of fall off before my live stream. So maybe I'll have to stop doing that and starting early with my timer and just start going right into my live streams. That's a decision I'll make later. Anyways, but I do have a really exciting news that's going to be coming up with our new team members. I have one of my new team members who is going to actually be we're scheduling a Zoom meeting with my leadership team. We're going to get them all introduced to this person. And then after that, we will be scheduling a large Zoom meeting with all of my volunteers to meet the new member of our team who's going to help guide us in the right direction so that we can win in Arkansas in 2022. So go to my Facebook group. I have a volunteer group there. If you want to join there, keep up to date with what's going on, please do that. And you can also go into that group and let us know how you can help volunteer as well that way. But that's all I've got. I've got about 8 more minutes until my meeting. But this is going to be a good meeting. I guess I can talk real quick. My ballot access case, it's been, 2.5 months since we had our hearing for ballot access for the 2020 case, which doesn't affect this current run for office against Senator John Boozman, but it can set an amazing precedent for independent candidates wanting to run for office in Arkansas. And what I mean by that is we're hoping that independent candidates will be able to gather their signatures, their 10,000 verified signatures, in an open 90-day window, just like the other political parties can, like Libertarians and Green Party. Whereas the Libertarians and Green Party can collect signatures whenever they want right now. They just have to choose their 90-day window, which the Libertarian Party was able to collect their signatures in the summer of 2019 before COVID. That's how they were on the ballot last year. Whereas independents are forced to use a fixed 90-day window, which was February 1st to May 1st of last year. So hopefully we can get an opinion on that here soon, and then that will help independent candidates in Arkansas determine on when they want to begin collecting signatures for their run for office. Because we don't have a problem of overcrowding on our ballots here in Arkansas. We have a problem of undercrowding. We have a problem of the majority of Republicans in our state actually running unopposed and not even getting a single vote in the general election. So that's where I stand for that. I'll let you guys know as soon as we get an opinion. Hopefully it'll be before next week. If not, then I'll give a quick update next week on we're still waiting. Hope you guys like my new background today. I decided to use Buffalo River rather than my big logo. I was just thinking it's beautiful. I'm going to try to make it out there here soon to float down the river because the weather is finally starting to turn here in Arkansas. All right. Well, let's see here. John, absolutely, I agree. We cannot let Sarah Huckabee Sanders win. And right now, it's looking like it's probably going to be Sarah Huckabee Sanders in the general election for the governor race here in Arkansas. She's got Donald Trump's endorsement. She's raising a ton of money, and we just cannot afford to let an extremist like her in an office here in our state in Arkansas like we already have. So yes, make sure you're supporting your Democratic candidates. Get to know them all if you can. Split even donations, small monetary donations between them, or choose one that you want to donate to. But we are going to have to all come together to make sure that we unite and we unify for this Democratic primary, and that we unify even afterwards until the general election. That way we can give our candidates the best chance possible to win here in Arkansas. So we have a very unique opportunity here in Arkansas for our 2022 elections. Of course, last year, y'all know Republicans took a huge supermajority in our state. We have 78 Republicans in the House compared to 22 Democrats. Most of them ran unopposed because our filing fees are some of the highest filing fees in America. Now, because of this issue that we were having, the Democratic Party of Arkansas actually eliminated filing fees for Democratic candidates running against unopposed and Republican incumbents. So if you can possibly run for office, it's not easy being a candidate, but we need people to take up the mantle, to hold that gauntlet, to, run into the flames, fight fire with fire, and make sure some of these Republicans have to actually fight for their positions, so that they actually have to go out into the public, talk to their constituents, answer for the way that they've been voting, and hopefully change the way that they've been voting to better represent the majority of people rather than just a small extremist group. So run for office if you can. We need you here in Arkansas. If we're going to flip Arkansas blue in 2022, we need people to organize. We need people to network, and we need people to mobilize. We need to make sure we're sharing our resources with each other, that if we have an event going to be in a city, reach out to other candidates, be like, hey, I'm going to have an event here this day, this time. If you can make it, please come. That way we can do what Georgia did, and we can campaign together, we can work together, and we can actually begin to take our state back from the special interests that poured millions and millions of dollars into Arkansas elections not very long ago. All right, so I'm up to about 4 minutes until my meeting. If you need help running for office, if you want to run as a Democrat, reach out to your local Democratic County Party. They will help you out. If you want to run as a Republican, reach out to your county Republican Party. They will help. And if you want to run as an independent, it is way harder. You got to figure it all out on your own normally, but you don't have to do it this next year. Reach out to me and I'll do my best to help guide you through the process of running as an independent candidate to give you the maximum amount of time that you can put towards a campaign and less time spent getting frustrated over how to do it. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me. I do appreciate it. I hope you're enjoying this Memorial Day safely. Think about all of those who we've lost giving the ultimate sacrifice for our country. It's Memorial Day is a very important holiday. It's a very important time to look back and thank people for what they gave. So make sure, if you're out in public and you're not vaccinated, wear a mask, be safe. If you are out in public, it's up to you whether or not you want to wear a mask. I still will to keep my family safe. But again, if you're vaccinated, as far as the CDC, the presidential administration, and the state has announced, you are safe to walk around without a mask now. We can start to get a little bit back to normal. So thank you guys so much. Be safe. Don't drink and drive. May God bless y'all. May God bless America. Have a wonderful evening, and I'll see y'all next week.